Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Patricia Love, and Patricia is a returning guest to our podcast. She has been on twice now to talk about her soon-to-be-published book, Seen and Unheard, A Little Girl's Journey from Silence to Empowerment. Now, in Seen and Unheard, Patricia shares how she successfully navigated a life of mental abandonment, abuse, and trauma, and ultimately found her power and worth in order to create her own new story. And really such a powerful topic, and it's really wonderful to really bring Patricia back and really kind of unpack this valuable information. And so without further ado, Patricia, welcome back to the Success Insight podcast.
I'm beginning to get to like it here. Thank you for inviting me back. It's an honor to be here. So, and I think it's such an important topic that we've been talking about. So I'm just honored that I get to chat about it some more. So thanks again, Howard.
It's our pleasure. And I have to say, I really do enjoy having these podcast series. I'm not the type of host that wants to do a 2-hour podcast. I don't have the energy for it. But I think just, if imagine this was a 2-hour podcast, all we're really doing is just breaking this up into consumable segments where the audience can get a lot of value, kind of think about it. In this case, they can read the book, learn more about the thought process that went into your creation of the book. And I just think it's a wonderful way to deliver a valuable message.
I couldn't agree with you more. I just want to quickly say that because in life, it's so important to take baby steps in things because otherwise everything is so overwhelming. We have too much we're taking in. So why don't we just take in little bites, as I say?
It's funny you say that. I was with a client today, a career development client, and she is looking for a new career and she's gone back to school. And the metaphor I used, and I use this a lot, I said, do you like to cook? And she said, well, I like to bake. Well, what did you bake? A cheesecake. It's like my favorite food, cheesecake.
Me too.
And I asked her, I said, do you eat the cheesecake right away, or do you have to prepare it? She goes, well, you have to prepare it. And so we talked about 3 steps, getting all the ingredients prepped and ready to go. You have the baking, which is the act of doing the things that you want to set out to do, interviewing, networking, going to meetings, stepping up to facilitate, etc. And then the actual consuming of the cheesecake, that's the new job. That's the new job.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Baking and cooking is just, it's life.
Yes.
It's just life, right? It's just parts of life.
I love that. Now, our first episode, we talked really about kind of the book in general, your life in general, an introduction to Seen and Unheard. In the second episode, we talked about some of the behaviors and the habits, the bad behaviors, the bad habits, and why we need to have new behaviors and new habits that serve us. What's the next step along this path that you'd like to share?
Well, first off, it's a very, very important one. It's actually probably the most important step in getting off that hamster wheel, you might say. And just to kind of reiterate is that hamster wheel that we're all on doing the same thing, getting the same result. And everybody is constantly like, why do I keep doing the same thing and getting the same result? Well, it's because you don't change anything. So if you don't change anything, then nothing will change, right? It just remains the same. But there's something behind, change. If, in other words, in order to change behaviors, in order to change habits, you absolutely have to have a reason why. And that reason why has to be so strong that you can continually read it and see it and feel it, that you never want to be that person again, or you never want to go back there again, or you never want to be there. Because otherwise, if it's not strong enough, then you're like, oh, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. It has to be strong. And so I actually carry my why around with me. And I know, Howard, you can see this, that's possibly, but I want to just read my why to people.
Okay.
because I want people to understand how important it is. And before I talk about the steps, because I want them to really to sink in how important the why is to every individual, and every why is different for everybody. Okay. So I write it, I carry this in my purse, and it says, my why. I will take an action every day to move towards my goals, because I never, 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 and this is in caps, by the way, in bold, want to feel like I did in 2009 when I was crying on the floor, drunk, broke, and broken, feeling worthless, not good enough, wondering if I would have a roof over my head or food to eat, feeling like no one cared, like I didn't matter. This was the worst feeling ever. I never want that feeling of being in debt, broke, or that feeling of worthlessness again. I felt I had nowhere to go. That was the worst day and the worst feeling of my life. I remember it well, and I will never, never go back to that feeling ever, ever again. I have the power within me to reach my goals. So today and every day, I will take a step or steps towards my goal of health, wealth, and happiness. I cannot and will not go backwards. I read this to myself because I want to remind myself that I never want to be on that floor again. I never want to question that I might have a roof, not have a roof over my head. There are some people's whys are going to be totally different. They're either broke, or maybe they're an alcoholic, or maybe they're in drug. There's a feeling that you do not ever want to go back to. And by writing this feeling down and this why down and reading it periodically, it'll bring you right back to make you keep going forward. Because what happens is we kind of get complacent sometimes, right? We want to change our behaviors. We want to change our habits. And then we kind of fall back. But if you read your why, it puts you right back to going and moving forward again. So it's so important to absolutely write out a why. And I want that why to be so tough that you actually would cry if you can't move forward. So it's really, really important. So I'm not sure if you've done a why or anything like that, Howard, but it's in order to change habits, you've got to have a reason, a really good reason to do it, and hold yourself to it.
It's interesting that you introduce us to this having a why. And I was on an episode or recording an episode of a podcast earlier this week. This one had to do with kind of the energy and commitment and feeling like, first of all, calming ourselves down. So like first thing in the morning, you don't necessarily meditate, but you get up, in my case, I'll look at the sunrise. I see it every day. But then to share with ourselves, this is what I want.
Right.
And I think part of that, this is what I want. So health, happiness, good fortune. I don't need to be rich, but I want to be comfortable. I want to continue to make a difference. I don't want to go out and not feel like I am contributing, out into the greater world. And so that's part of my why, but perhaps I was phrasing it a little differently. This is what I want because.
Yeah, this is what you want because, but you also might just think about, why do I want it? And why do I want it so badly? Why do I want to contribute so much? When you have that kind of an extra little oomph of a why, it pushes you even further because it says, I want, not just I want it. You have, so it's just something to really think about when you're in that morning and, why do I want this so badly? And so because it makes it completely different. And then you write it down and it's physical. And then you read it, and then it keeps you moving forward.
Right. And I think, too, it needs to happen every day.
Every day.
And the nuance that my guest had also shared is throughout the day, you remind yourself while you're doing what you're doing.
Yes. And that's called awareness. And, when you become aware, and then you take the time and intentionally actually take a minute. 1 minute, 60 seconds, stop and say, why am I doing this? Breathe, and then you can move forward because then it puts everything into focus. So yes, it's so important. And that's, but the why is important. And then the awareness is important. And then my 5 steps that I have are critical. So I'm just going to mention my 5 steps real quickly, and
Sure.
then maybe we can chat about them if you'd like to.
Of course, definitely.
But it's once you kind of get that why and everything, you really have to take acknowledgement. So the first step is acknowledgement, acknowledging things in your life. The second one is forgiveness, and that's going to be forgiveness of yourself and other people. The third is mindset, obviously the changing your mindset about how you think about things, accountability. And then the last one is perseverance, which is keeping going. I do have a 6th one, which of course I added to, which of course is gratitude, which is, at the end, you're grateful for everything. But I'd love to just, take a minute or two and we can chat about all 5 of these plus the gratitude.
Let's do that. Let's circle back.
Yeah. Well, first off, by acknowledging your faults, you have to start acknowledging what happened. Why did I stop? Why do I am not confident? But you have to acknowledge the truth and say, I don't feel confident. And that's not always easy to say to yourself. So you got to acknowledge the fact of being very, very truthful about you. This is nobody else. You can't blame anybody else for this. This is your own personal acknowledgement. Like I'm in debt. My relationships suck. And I've been divorced 2 to 3 times, or 1 time where I can't seem to hold on to relationships, whether it be friends or the other, significant others, or there's anger, or I'm angry. You have to acknowledge the fact that maybe you have a temper. There's a lot of things that we don't always like to acknowledge, right?
Well, part of it is because we're afraid.
It's fear.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're afraid. But here's the thing. You can like yourself. You don't have to tell anybody else. This is only talking to yourself. But I have to say, when you actually write it out, it's hard to say that about yourself. You're like, because then you're not perfect anymore. So that's going to be one of the hardest things to do, is to acknowledge your faults, acknowledge where you are right this moment. But once you do that, then you can start to fixing. Because if you don't acknowledge that you're in debt, say, this is just an example. If you don't acknowledge it, you can't fix it. I didn't open up my bills. I thought they just go away, but once you acknowledge it, open things up and you go, okay, all right, I'm in debt. That sucks. But, I can move forward on this.
Yep.
I got a place to start. So it's a starting spot. You have to not think about what's in the past, what you did, what you shouldn't have done. It's irrelevant now. It's what you're doing right now. So acknowledgement is really, really important. The next thing that I'm going to suggest to people always do, and it's the biggest and the hardest one to do also, is forgiveness. Forgiving not only yourself, but forgiving others for maybe what they've done in your past. Because if you don't forgive, Howard, what happens? Do you have an idea?
It's like in my mind, it's like this weight that just continues to drag us down.
It's an energy. It's an energy it's toxicity.
Yeah. Very toxic.
And we are made up of nothing but energy. And when your energy is really low, because you haven't forgiven, because you have that hate and you have that anger. And I have to say, because people say, well, I can't forgive that person because they did this to me. It's not forgetting. It's actually forgiving yourself to forgive them, because you want to just take back your energy and take back your power that they probably don't even know they took.
Right.
They typically don't even care. And that can be trauma, because I had to forgive the person who raped me. I had to do a lot of heavy duty forgiveness. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen overnight, but once you can release that toxic energy, you have all the energy to move forward into changing your mindset, which is number 3.
Okay.
And when you can change, then because you need to change your mindset, you need a lot of energy, because you got to change habits. You got to change behaviors. You got to change your thoughts. And one of the best mindset quotes that I say, and I say this all the time, it's a Wayne Dyer quote: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So start thinking in your mind, okay, I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to be more aware and listen to what the negative stuff I am saying. And you're going to find out maybe you might be saying a lot of negative stuff, but you have to be aware of it. You have to be open to it. So that's the other thing, is mindset. You need to allow yourself to be and feel open, to allow new things to come into your life and new opportunities. So mindset, and it's not just positivity. It's not just that. It's just being open, feeling good about who you are. And then you're going to exert better energy out to the world.
I was going to say it again. I'm alluding back to another guest, but we were in flow there. But it is that energy, and when we have her in her perspective, energy that was serving us was very fluid.
Yes.
It easily connected with other people's energy, but when your energy is negative or the other person's energy is negative, it was kind of jagged.
Yeah.
And so it was basically kind of harming each other.
Yeah.
And it was not serving us. So
you're trying to flow the energy all the time, and there's always negative and positive energy, right? And so what you're trying to do is stay in the middle as much as possible, because the more you are aware of the negative energy, the quicker you can flow it to a positive energy. And again, it's not saying I'm positive. It's not that so much. It's just a feeling of feeling okay with where you are, because then you're going to disperse that positive energy and good energy to other people. They're going to love that. And they're going to come back to you because they say, I want to hang out with Howard because he's got great energy.
Exactly.
So that's there. And then the fourth one is so important too, is, and they're all important, but they all kind of flow together, is accountability. Accountability, not just from somebody else holding you accountable, but being accountable to yourself. And I'm going to give an example of this, is that we can't always have people celebrate us. We can't always rely on others to say, hey, you go, Howard, that was great, good job. We have to sometimes take our own accountability and celebrate who we are and be accountable to ourselves. So if you did something today, be accountable and say, hey, I did a great job today. I did good. I did this, I did that. I wrote this down. That actually builds confidence in you. So it's not just somebody being, hold me accountable to do this. It's holding yourself and celebrating yourself in accountability.
And I love it, that piece of it, because by holding ourselves accountable and finding a way to acknowledge it, whether it's a check mark on a board, or you fill a jar
Yes
with something that, and as those checks increase, the jar gets filled, then we know things are happening.
Right, because we can't rely on everybody to love us in the moment.
Right.
We need to be loved.
Right.
So we have to learn to love ourselves. Yes, we have to learn to love ourselves, because when you learn to love yourself and you build that own confidence, then everything else is just a big bonus. But perseverance is the fifth one.
Okay.
And perseverance is just never giving up. Perseverance is, I've come this far. I've lost 5 pounds. I did all these goals. I want to keep going. And it's reminding yourself to take a baby step, and you don't have to take, 5 steps or run 10 miles.
Right.
Just take a walk. Take the basic. Perseverance is just, it can be a turtle. They move very slowly. What is there? There was this, long time ago, about an ant that moved the rubber tree plant. Do you remember that song and all? The ant that moved.
Right.
Well, it was like, a rubber tree plant is quite heavy, right? So there was this ant that tried to move the rubber tree plant, and he just kept trying and trying, but finally he got it, and he got there. So it's amazing. It's taking those baby steps that you can do it, because all of a sudden there goes another rubber tree plant. Oh, there goes another rubber tree plant, because he figured out how to move that rubber tree plant. So anyway, it was a Frank Sinatra song, by the way. So feel free to, pull it up. It's actually quite good.
We'll Google Frank Sinatra and rubber tree.
Anyway, and then of course, number 6, which is, I consider a bonus, but it's a bonus that wraps up all of 1 through 5. And that is gratitude. And I don't mean gratitude in the fact that I'm grateful for being here. It has to be said in a way that you are grateful for just being grateful. It's not just a word. You have to really think about the word grateful, because too many people say, oh yeah, I'm grateful for that. Oh yeah, I'm very grateful. Are you really?
I think that means for me, that idea of gratefulness is also humble.
Yes.
Because if I'm humble, I have gratitude for what I have in the moment, and what I can give and share and do.
Yes.
And it's not delivering that with any strings attached.
That's exactly what it is. Gratefulness is humbleness. It's being humble that I have a roof over my head. It's being just humble. And when you can stay in that energy, you might say, you will see the abundance of doors and opportunities open up, because it's just an automatic good energy. It just keeps bringing in more good things. So those are the 5 plus that extra bonus, that gratefulness that just wraps up those 5.
Okay.
But you have to have all of them. And if you do them properly and you work on them, each and individual, I actually work on these daily. I actually have my list too, where I acknowledge, okay, what did I do something yesterday, or what did I not do? Then I also talk about, who did I need to forgive today? How was my mindset? Was I accountable to myself? Am I persevering? I keep myself in check, you might say. So it's important to, to do these things every day, and then you'll keep yourself moving forward.
Fantastic. Well, definitely a lot to think about, a lot of insights and awareness for our listeners. And again, they'll read the book, Seen and Unheard, A Little Girl's Journey from Silence to Empowerment, and really dive into these words, take them to heart: acknowledgement, forgiveness, mindset, accountability, perseverance, and gratitude. So much more to unpack there.
Yes.
I know we've only scratched the surface, but
yes.
Patricia, thank you so much for joining us back on the Success Insight podcast, and we'll continue the conversation. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I loved it.
Fantastic. And hey, before we leave, just as a reminder to our listeners, the best places to learn more about you and your work.
Absolutely. The best place is to go to patricialove.com, or you can go to Facebook at Patricia Love, the Rah Rah Coach, or even Instagram, Coach Patricia Love. So pretty easy to find. I'm an open book.
Sounds like a plan. We will definitely provide the backlinks to your website and social sites. All right, folks, just another helping, so to speak, of Patricia and her wisdom and insights, and really the factors that went into having this desire, this feeling the need to publish and Seen and Unheard, and also the tools that Patricia's clients, perhaps, and the readers can take from Patricia's insights and how they can use those to change their own lives. And we talked about these 5 steps, number 6, which was the bonus, and really hope that you begin to take these to heart as well. Okay. And if you would do us a favor, let us know what you thought of this episode, or any episode for that matter, by visiting us on successinsightpodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn on the Success Insight podcast pages, and also the major podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and of course on YouTube. All right, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on the next episode of the Success Insight podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.